The rain had been falling for 3 days straight when the diver broke the surface, gasping, his voice shaking as he yelled for the others to pull him in. The reservoir outside Ashford, Oregon, was supposed to be quiet, just water, fog, and pine trees. Instead, it became a crime scene at 6:42 a.m. Wrapped in plastic and weighted with rusted chains was the body of a woman who had been missing for 12 years. Detective Mara Klein stood at the edge of the water, rain soaking through her coat, watching the evidence bags line up on the gravel. She had been a rookie when the woman disappeared. Now she was the lead investigator reopening a case most people had forgotten, except the family, and whoever had made sure the body stayed hidden for over a decade. The victim was identified within hours. Elena Ward. 27 years old when she vanished. Last seen leaving her night shift at a roadside diner. No signs of a struggle back then. No witnesses. No arrests. Just a quiet disappearance that slowly turned cold. Until now. The chains were deliberate. The knots were practiced. Whoever dumped Elena knew the reservoir's depth, knew the patrol schedules, knew exactly how long it would take before anyone found her, if they ever did. The medical examiner confirmed what Mara feared. Elena hadn't drowned. She had been dead before she hit the water. As news spread, old faces resurfaced. Elena's younger brother Daniel, now older than she ever got to be, stared silently at the photos, his jaw clenched tight. He had begged police for years not to give up. Someone finally listened, but far too late. The original case files were thin. One suspect stood out then, and still did now, Caleb Rourke, Elena's on-and-off boyfriend. Volatile. Jealous. Questioned extensively in 2012. He had an alibi, said he was at home, alone. No proof. No charges. Caleb had since cleaned up his life. Married. 2 kids. A respected construction foreman. When detectives knocked on his door again, he didn't look surprised. "I knew this day would come," he said quietly. Mara felt the air shift. Caleb agreed to come in for questioning. He answered calmly, carefully, his story unchanged after 12 years. Same timeline. Same words. Too rehearsed. Too smooth. Then came the break. Back at the reservoir, a crime scene tech pulled Mara aside. Inside the plastic wrap around Elena's wrists was something missed at first glance, a thin strip of duct tape, preserved by the cold water. On it was a partial fingerprint. Not Elena's. Not Caleb's either. The print matched someone else entirely. Someone who had testified in Caleb's defense 12 years ago. And when Mara opened the old witness list, one name jumped off the page, someone who had never been considered a suspect. But they should have been. Because the confession everyone was waiting for hadn't come from the killer. It was coming from someone who helped bury the truth. The fingerprint belonged to Thomas Hale. For years, his name had lived quietly in the margins of the case file, just a line of ink under the word witness. 12 years ago, Thomas had sworn under oath that Caleb Rourke never left his house the night Elena disappeared. He was calm. Credible. A volunteer firefighter. A family man. The kind of witness juries trusted without hesitation. Now his fingerprint had surfaced from the grave. Detective Mara Klein sat across from Thomas in the interview room, watching his hands. They shook slightly, just enough to notice. He looked older than his file photo, thinner hair, deeper lines, but his eyes were the same. Sharp. Calculating. "That's impossible," Thomas said, staring at the photo of the duct tape. "I never touched her." Mara didn't argue. She let the silence stretch, heavy and suffocating. The forensic timeline didn't lie. The tape had been applied while Elena was still alive. Which meant Thomas hadn't just seen something, he'd been there. As pressure mounted, pieces began to fall into place. Phone records from 2012, recently reanalyzed with modern software, placed Thomas near the diner the night Elena vanished. Not long. Just long enough. When confronted, Thomas's story cracked. He admitted he'd lied on the stand. Claimed Caleb had called him in a panic that night, begging for help. Said he'd covered for him out of loyalty. Out of fear. But fear of what? Caleb said it was an accident, Thomas whispered. He said she fell? He said he needed help. Mara leaned forward. Help with what? Thomas swallowed hard. Making it go away. The interview was interrupted when an officer burst into the room, pale and breathless. Detective, you need to see this. They found Caleb's house empty. Clothes gone. Car missing. His phone powered off. He was running. An APB went out across 3 states. Border alerts were issued. News vans crowded the station steps. The story exploded. Missing woman found after 12 years. Prime suspect flees. But the deeper Mara dug, the less sense it made. Construction records showed Caleb had been working a job site overnight the week after Elena vanished, far from Ashford. Security footage, recently recovered, confirmed it. He had been there. He hadn't dumped the body. Someone else had. And that someone had sworn to protect him. A second search warrant was executed on Thomas Hale's property. In his detached garage, buried behind a false wall, investigators uncovered a rusted chain identical to the ones found in the reservoir. Same manufacturer. Same corrosion pattern. Then came the final blow. A locked metal box. Inside it, wrapped in oil-stained cloth, was Elena's missing necklace, the one her brother had described through tears 12 years earlier. Thomas hadn't just lied. He'd kept trophies. As police moved to arrest him, Thomas vanished. His truck was found abandoned near the state forest, engine cold, driver's door open. No blood. No note. Just a single set of footprints leading into the trees. And a voicemail left on Mara's phone, time-stamped 1 hour earlier. His voice was calm. Almost relieved. You're looking in the wrong place, Thomas said. The confession you want isn't about the murder. It's about why it happened. Then the line went dead. The forest search lasted 2 days. Dogs tracked Thomas Hale's scent through wet leaves and broken brush until it vanished at the edge of a ravine. No body. No blood. Just absence. It was as if he had dissolved into the woods along with the lies he'd carried for 12 years. But Thomas had been right about one thing. The confession wasn't about the murder. It came from Daniel Ward. Mara was reviewing Elena's personal effects late one night when the call came in. Daniel had walked into the Ashford Police Department on his own, pale, hollow-eyed, carrying a small notebook pressed to his chest like a shield. I can't do this anymore, he said. I should have told someone a long time ago. In the interview room, Daniel's hands trembled as he opened the notebook. Inside were dates, addresses, and fragments of memories written over more than a decade, entries that stopped and started, as if he tried to forget and failed every time. He told Mara the truth. Elena hadn't been meeting Caleb the night she disappeared. She had gone to see Thomas Hale. Daniel had known. Thomas had been obsessed with Elena for years. When she rejected him, he spiraled. That night, he confronted her behind the diner, desperate and angry. The argument turned violent. She tried to leave. He grabbed her. She fell, hit her head on the concrete, and didn't get back up. Thomas panicked and called the only person who knew his secret, Daniel. I was her brother, Daniel whispered. I was supposed to protect her. Instead, he helped cover it up. Daniel admitted he'd met Thomas at the scene. Helped move Elena's body. Helped wrap the chains. He convinced himself he was protecting his family from more pain. When Caleb became the focus of the investigation, Daniel stayed silent. And Thomas used that silence as leverage. For 12 years, Daniel lived with it, every birthday Elena never had, every holiday with an empty chair. The guilt ate him alive. When the reservoir finally gave up her body, the secret became unbearable. Thomas's disappearance was no mystery either. Phone pings from the voicemail traced him to a remote motel near the Canadian border. When police arrived, they found his room empty, but the bathroom told the story. A syringe. An empty vial. A final act of control. On the mirror, written in lipstick, were 3 words. He helped me. Thomas's death closed the search, but it didn't bring relief. Daniel was arrested without resistance. He pleaded guilty, sparing the family a trial. At sentencing, he stood and faced the courtroom, voice breaking as he spoke Elena's name out loud for the first time in 12 years. "I waited too long," he said. "And every day I waited, I killed her again." Caleb Rourke was cleared. He never returned to Ashford. The case was officially closed, but its shadow lingered. Because justice delayed doesn't just haunt the guilty, it scars everyone it touches. And if this confession shook you, remember this. Some truths don't stay buried forever. They wait. And if you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Subscribe so you don't miss it.